All right, let's go ahead and tackle this question here where, as always, remember we want to take the first step and understand what we're trying to accomplish. So in this particular problem, it says, how much mixed paint is left? My party people, help me out. Before we even understand, what the numbers are that we're dealing with, can you help me out when we're asking how much of something is left? Can you tell me what operation might come to mind? Yeah, typically we might be thinking subtraction, right? Typically we're thinking subtraction. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how simple this problem actually is and how the unit conversion part of it is truly what makes it tough. So watch. It says a painter mixes, and let me actually just use my pointer. A painter mixes this much paint with that much paint or this much tint. After mixing, she uses this much for a job. So everyone think of it like this. The painter mixes this much paint with this much tint. When you mix things together, everybody, what operation is that? If I'm mixing the paint and the tint, that's addition. So I'm going to say that the paint plus the tint is the mixture that I'm working with. And then it says, after we're done with the mixing, she uses this much for a job. Okay, so I'm going to say subtract, because if we use it, that's subtraction. We're taking that away from what we have. And so we're going to subtract the amount for the job. And there we are. So everyone, with that said, is it understandable that, again, before we get into the unit conversions, this is a pretty straightforward question. We're going to add the paint and the tint together because that's going to give us the mixture. And then from there, we just subtract how much we used for the job. Yeah, and there we go. There we are. So now let's go ahead and do the math. The paint, that's going to be 4 gallons and 1 quart. The tint, let me just go ahead and bring the tint as a different color. Let me just go ahead and use blue for that. So give me one moment there. Boom, changed it to blue. So let's go ahead and add together the 2 gallons and 3 quarts. Everyone, when we do that, let's add that together here. We have the 4 gallons plus the 2 gallons, so that's 6 gallons. And everybody, I'm not trying to patronize you, but what's 1 quart plus 3 quarts? Yeah, 1 quart plus 3 quarts, that's going to be 4 quarts. And can anybody tell me what 4 quarts is the same as? Yeah, 4 quarts is a gallon. So we have the 4 quarts right here. But what I can highlight about this is that 4 quarts is quite literally 1 gallon. Let me actually write that in purple. So again, 1 gallon that we can add in right there. So once we do that, folks, here's the thing. We can add that in there to make 7 gallons. And everybody, what operation are we going to do with this 5 gallons and 2 quarts? What did we say we would do? We said we would subtract. Now, look at what happens. If I try to subtract the 5 gallons and 2 quarts, does everybody here notice that we don't have anything here for quarts? So we're going to have to do a little bit of conversion. Anybody notice that? Yeah, I don't like that, right? I don't like that I'm going to be taking extra steps to turn the gallons back into quarts. I don't want to do that. Me, personally, I'm work smarter, not harder. Some people call it lazy. I call it working smarter, not harder. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just remove this 7 gallons and remind myself that, hey, guess what? I had 6 gallons and 4 quarts. That's the same thing as 7 gallons. Same thing. This is much easier now. Take a look, everyone. 6 gallons minus 5 gallons, 1 gallon. 4 quarts minus 2 quarts, 2 quarts. And take a look. Straightforward, nice and easy. So that's why I like to caution folks, don't convert in the middle of the problem. Typically, you want to convert all the way at the end. But nonetheless, there we are. The correct final answer here is answer choice A. 1 gallon, 2 quarts, and there we go. All right, so here's another one. Let's get it going by just, again, addressing the question sentence. So the question sentence reads, If each board is 2.5 feet long, this is just conditional information. Don't even worry about this yet. It says, how many full boards are required? How many full boards are required? Okay, so we are trying to figure out how many full boards are required here, and what we know so far is that a job needs 360 inches of trim, and each board that we're cutting is 2.5 feet long. So we have a total of 360 inches to work with, and each board is 2.5 or 2.5 feet. So before we even think about the conversions, anybody, before we even think about those conversions, what operation are we thinking of between these two values? The total trim that we have versus the size of each trim. What operation are we thinking of here? Is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, division? Yeah, it's going to be division. It's going to be division. Remember, my party people, anytime that you have a total and you're trying to find out how many cuts you can make out of that total, that's division. You're trying to see how many times you can take this much out of this. Anytime you are doing repeated subtraction, that's division. Repeated addition is multiplication. So again, we are repeatedly subtracting until we get the number of full boards that we can make. That's division all day long. So I'm going to note that right over here. We have division. And then I'm going to ask you this. My party people, would we rather deal with whole numbers or decimals? You tell me. Would you rather deal with whole numbers or decimals? I agree. I would rather deal with whole numbers too. So in order to do that, notice that I could convert the inches into feet, or I could convert the feet into inches. We're not trying to find a specific unit at the end. We just want to divide these two values, and so it's up to you. It's up to you whether you want to convert this one or this one. It's really up to you. So to keep life easy, I'm going to convert the 2.5 feet into inches, and then we'll get going from there. So to do that, I know my conversion. 1 foot equals 12 inches. And so to go from feet to inches, I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to multiply the 2.5 by 12, and I'm going to do that right over here. 2.5 multiplied by 12. Remember that when we multiply by a decimal, we'll go ahead and ignore that decimal and then just bring it back at the end. So we have 5 multiplied by 2. That's going to be 10, and carry that 1. 2 times 2 will be 4. Carry the 1 is 5. Next up, we'll place a 0, and we'll keep working here on that next place value. We have 5 times 1, which is 5, and then 2 times 1, which is 2. Adding everything up, and we have a 0, 10, carry the 1, and then a 3. So we see that we had just one decimal place that we're going to bring back. So that'll be 30 as our number of inches. So there we go. Booyah, we have our 30. And so now the goal here is to do 360 inches divided by 30 inches. And that'll give us the number of times or the number of boards that we can fully make. So with that, let me go ahead and turn my iPad so it's straight forward, so that way we don't aggravate anybody with OCD. So with that said, let's do the division here, everybody. We have 360 divided by 30. What's that going to give us? How many times does 3 go into 36? Yeah, that's going to be 12. And there we go. We can make 12 full boards, and we are all set with this problem. The correct answer here is answer choice C.